Have you ever heard me talk about my back-end selling systems? Do you know what those are when I say those things?
No, no, no.
So in my world specifically, we believe that on the front end, let's use the example that you're advertising, somebody will see an ad, and then in that ad, they go over to your page. And ideally, on a call funnel that's optimized properly, you'd have a very simple page. You'd have a headline, you'd have a VSL right here, and that's specifically where that VSL script I was telling you about would go. And then here you have an application. This application can be in a tool like Typeform as an example. Some people use all kinds of other tools, but simply put, once you get that application filled out, people then go and they schedule a call. And with that scheduled call, right, this is where most people stop. From here, what most people will do is they'll just send like reminder emails or reminder texts. And they assume that because somebody booked the call, that they were interested enough to show up to the call. When in reality, what we typically say is on this part of the process, somebody's in what's called scanner mode. And in scanner mode, we like to assume that everybody's obviously operating in an energy conservative state. Most people don't really want to exert a lot of effort or time, especially when they're just scrolling through a platform that's made them open to suggestion. They see an ad that interests them. They click to your page. That person's not probable to consume the entire VSL. That person's, in some instances, going to just read the headline and combine what they saw in the ad and say, oh, that makes sense. I'm looking for that, and then fill out the application and schedule. Once they're on the back end, okay, this is where everything changes. We consider that on the back end of the process, starting with the actual confirmation page, that people switch to what we call justification mode. Okay, so in justification mode, this is when somebody's officially booked the call and they're looking to justify showing up to the call. This is when real information is consumed, much more so in comparison to front end, okay? And there's a combination of a few things we do. We do confirmation page best practices. We do what we call value dense email sequences. And let me be clear on what that means so you can understand this in a high level concept. Value dense email sequences are you taking what people actually give a fuck to know about your business, about your offer. Think about this as an example. Whenever somebody in America thinks of somebody overseas, as belittling as it sounds to everybody that's overseas, we actually think extremely highly of ourselves. We know how other Americans are. We know that even at the lowest level of an American spectrum of income, there's people who most instances here believe that they're temporarily poor or temporarily in a fucked up position. When you think of overseas talent, you usually think of Philippines. That's like the number one place people are going to think of. And most people up to this point have either had a direct experience with VAs, or they've heard of experiences with VAs, or they just have what's called hand-me-down beliefs about VAs. You being able to actually demonstrate on the confirmation page through what we call breakout videos, and in the email sequences with what we call value dense email sequences, the things that people actually want to know that would prevent them from showing up and that would make them excited about showing up, that would create urgency based on the fact they show up and saying, this makes so much sense. You gave me so much information prior to even showing up. This isn't just 2 of these. There's 5 of these, by the way, that we do. 5 back-end selling systems. 2 of these can make the most difference that you can imagine to show rate, close rates, shortening sales cycles, because you're talking about the things that people actually want to know prior to the call. And at this period of time, literally right after they book, is when they're the most probable to actually want to consume that information. If you delay, based on especially your schedules, let's say like 3 to 5 days out for an average call to be happy. Yeah, not only do they forget, they lost enthusiasm, they had no additional data come through to them that would have excited them or increased the justification to show up. Their justification doesn't stay the same. I have this spectrum, I call it the interest spectrum. And on this interest spectrum, we consider that there's 4 specific levels of interest. There's convicted, there's highly interested, there's general interest, and then there's just curiosity. And then down here, you have no interest at all. Somebody may come through and only be curious. Their interest does not stay curious as 3 to 5 days pass, right? As 3 to 5 days pass, what happens is their interest slowly goes down by the day, right? And so if they come through as an example, and let's use the example that they come through highly interested, right? And they know specifically that they need you, dude, that's awesome, because that means there's one step in between them getting to the point where there's enough interest to actually do a deal. We think that deals only get done above a convicted level of interest. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm thinking about while I'm watching this is like, I do think our candidates are generally way better than everyone else. And the thing that usually tips people over is like, after we do a sales call, we'll send them example candidates for their role, and they get way more excited, and we should just do that right away.
So-
Like we have on the intake form what roles they're interested in, and we
Yes.
should have been sending them example candidates like as soon as possible.
Yes.
Because our success has, like, a big part of our success is just moving quick, where, like, you know, if you take, it's really funny because the longer we take to place a role, the slower the response is from the client. Like, you
Yeah.
know, if we're 4
Of
weeks
course.
trying to recruit someone, then we send it, it's going to take 2 days, versus if we send it in 24 hours, like, they'll respond right away and we get it done faster. And yeah.
So remember this is very important. You get to choose whether the interest level goes up or down as they get closer to the call.
Yeah.
And it's not just based on random information, it's based on information. We like to, are you familiar with an epiphany? Like an aha moment, right? Like as you just essentially did right in front of me, you essentially had an aha moment where you looked at what I was just describing and you were like, dude, that makes so much fucking sense. Like if I did this, that would make a huge difference. And now you know that. You actually know it so much so that if you actually look at the difference in your body, you're starting to move a lot more.
Oh no,
you have,
way
like,
more
you have
excited.
energy that's built. You see what I mean? It's like you have energy that builds up inside of you, which literally, think about what I'm describing in practice. It makes you want to take action.
Yes.
Right? Imagine if I'm sitting here talking to you about things with things you genuinely don't care about at all, that you're not finding value in. Imagine the exact opposite. You would sit here and you'd look bored. You'd be drawn of energy. In comparison, when we give people the right information, how the human body receives the right information is with excitement, with enthusiasm. It actually stores up inside, it kind of winds us up and makes us want to spend that energy on something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So hear me out. This is very important you understand this. When somebody gets to the back end, right, after the call's booked, that's justification mode. And with the right information, specifically understand this, epiphanies or aha moments are what we're looking to manufacture. The one you just said is honestly a perfect example of a confirmation page that would rip. Listen to this, okay? Imagine you just book a call for overseas talent. You have all these handy-down beliefs in your head about whatever the fuck you think about people who work overseas that could potentially be placed by this random organization you just saw an ad from. The first video you see on the confirmation page are interviews with a handful of the people that actually look sharp, sound sharp, represent you and the people that you place well. And somebody who watches it in under 30 seconds gets that exact impression where they say, holy shit, this is way different than what I thought it was.
Would you
Wow.
would you embed those candidate videos in the email or on a web page that you send to the web page?
Both. So
Both.
right after they book the call, that confirmation page they see, that's where those first videos lay, is on the confirmation page itself.
Got it.
Okay? And you can have a lot of these, okay? You can have, we had a client who had 19 of them as an example on the page,
Oh wow.
answering all the most common questions people had. The first video makes the biggest difference. If you have people that show up without urgency, you want to put an urgency video first that incites why people would want to do something now. And it's got to be a real reason that they actually believe too. Because everybody's got, the richer the demographic you sell to, the more priorities they got on their list that I guarantee are above yours. You gotta work your way up in there with some real reasons that actually make sense to get it done now. Some people, they have reputation issues, like maybe there's something written about them online. A due diligence video does best there if that's the case. And then the rest of the videos on the page can be what we call supporting videos, like just more so like questions that you get frustrated having to talk to people about on a sales call that you wish they knew ahead of time. Put it in a breakout video, put it in a value dense email sequence. And then there's never been an instance, literally ever, that we've run a confirmation page where we have 100% play rate on any video. Usually we get about a 50 to maybe at max like 80% play rate, like best case scenario. Usually it's about 50. That means that 1 out of 2 people will watch those. And believe it or not, listen to this. The average play rate is about 50%. The average engagement rate is in the 80s. That means that on average, for the people who do watch those videos, 1 out of 2 people are watching damn near every video on the page, and they're watching it to an 80% threshold of viewership. That's justification mode. If you looked at your VSL stats in comparison with that exact same person, you'd see a maybe 20 to 50% play rate at best on your VSL in most instances. We've seen better, to be fair, with outliers. And then your engagement rate is usually like sub 50% on a VSL. Again, we've seen outliers. You parrot whatever's written and spoken on that confirmation page into the other 5 back-end selling systems. So the confirmation page, the value dense email sequences, I showed you one with the AI manipulation best practices. We want to ideally get AI models to parrot the same things that we say inside of these. Setter, pre-call best practices. So a lot of people get upset that they have to play an education role on a sales call. They'd rather it be a closing call. Right? The education process, the reason you have to do that, by the way, is because no education's happening after they book. So you can mitigate a lot of education by educating people prior to the call. So setters can reach out and play an educator role prior to the sales call and they can give people key information. You see?
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have this specific ad strategy. We call it the hammer them strategy. We'll take 15 to 20 pieces of content as the goal to get it in front of them before they show up to the call. And those are videos like that. They're short form videos, they're long form videos. It's a combination of the two.